In this first video, I'm going to just go over some of the ways to get around your Mac. You may be new to a Mac, you may be an old user, but I would recommend watching these even if you're used to a Mac. I may show you a thing or two you don't know. So the basic setup that we're looking at is I've got a desktop with a wallpaper on the background. At the top of the screen we have our menus, starting with the Apple menu on the far left and moving over through the Finder, File, Edit, View, Go, Window, Help, and so on. In the Apple menu are things like Shut Down and Restart, Force Quit, and System Preferences. They also have About This Mac, so if you're curious about the Mac that you are working on, you can click on that. I'm working on OS X version 10.9.3, otherwise known as Mavericks. Now I can close Windows by clicking on the top red little button. The other things we have on this top menu are, on my computer I have a couple of applications that run, such as Dropbox, and then I have things like showing my Wi-Fi and what time it is. These you can all click on and change or adjust if you need to. The other thing up here on this top that's kind of nice is we've got a feature called Spotlight. Now Spotlight is similar to the Start menu on your, or to the Window menu on your PC. So here I could look for an application, for example Photoshop, if I could type right, and it'll show me all of these hits. So the top hit is actually the program itself. Then there's other hits that are folders named Photoshop. I can get out of that by either clicking off of it or clicking the little X. This last one on mine it's things that I've custom set to give me updates, so we won't really concern ourselves about that. Now you might want to know, how do I get to my files and all my applications and stuff? Well, let's take a look down at the bottom at the dock. The dock is full of shortcuts to different applications, and we can customize what is on our dock, where it's positioned, and all sorts of things about it. So also down here on the dock, by the way, we have a trash can that you can drag files into. On mine, and I believe set up default on most, is also a folder for your downloads. So unless you specify where you want things to go, they'll go to that downloads folder. Now this class is to be working with Photoshop CS6, but you can see on this dock, this program that we're going to be working with all the time doesn't exist on my dock. So let's begin setting up by putting that program down there. To get into all of your files and everything, you can click on this far left one. It's the Finder. He's a little smiley face dude, and it pops up a window. Windows are pretty much the same, I think, across the PC and the Mac. They're, things are in maybe slightly different places. So at the top I can click and drag to move these windows around. I can resize it by clicking and dragging the corners. I can change the width of things by hovering over the line, clicking and dragging. I can also change what the view is on this computer by clicking one of these four buttons. So there is an icon button. You can also change the size of the icons by moving the little slider that's down here in the corner. There's the list view, which is my preference. There's a three-tiered view, which is rather nice for people that like to see kind of the history of where they've gone. Once you actually arrive on a file, it will try and preview an image of it here on the right. If it's a video file or music file, it will actually give you the option to start playing it. There's this way which kind of combines the list and the visual look, kind of the preview. I don't really care for this view, so mostly I'll be working in list. You can change the size of your icons by right-clicking and going to View, Show View Options. Now you'll notice I just said right-click. If you're working on a Mac that came with the mouse that the Macs always come with, you'll notice there's not actually a right-click button. So there may be another function on your mouse that can pull that up, but the easiest way for me to get to that without a right clicker is to hold down the Control key on my Mac keyboard and click once and it'll pull up those little drop menus that you're used to getting with a right click. So you can go to Show View Options and it will give you a bunch of stuff you can play with. I've set my icon preview to large so that you can see it a little bit better. You can also change the text size, which will only change it in the windows, but if you're a little hard on vision, that might be a nice thing for you. You can also change what information is being shown here in these columns by clicking which ones you want, like perhaps you want the date it was created or the date it was last opened. Each of these columns give you the ability to sort by that information, so I'm going to close this right now by clicking again the little red dot and come over here. So right now everything is organized, I believe the default way, which is alphabetical by the first category, and I can reverse that by clicking on this name. I can also change how much space is between these categories by clicking and dragging the little lines. I can organize everything in there by clicking on Date Modified, so now it's listing the files by the date the closest date modified, by file size, by kind. So again, remember, you can change what options are showing here by right-clicking and going to Show View Options. You can also choose things like Arrange By and View and get info on folders if you need to. To scroll in a window, you'll notice I don't have scroll options right now. That's because everything that can be shown is being shown. But if I resized my window to restrict where those are, or even up here, then those would appear. See, there we go. Now there's some more preferences that you can change how things look. So closing out of this window, I'm going to guide you up here to the Apple menu, and let's first go into System Preferences. System Preferences is where you can access all kinds of controls for your computer. I would caution you going through these. If you don't really know what you're doing, you can kind of screw up your computer if you move stuff around, but there's a few ones that are pretty safe to get into. One of those is the dock, and we can change the appearance of this dock down here. Now I happen to like mine about this size. You can click and drag this slider. The magnification option, if you scroll over it with that option on, it'll make those icons bigger. I don't particularly care for that, so I leave it off. You can also choose which side of your screen it is on, so you can change it to where it's docked to the right side. I prefer mine on the bottom, and I actually prefer it to disappear when I'm not using it, so I usually check the automatically hide and show the dock option. Now it's not gone permanently. I can scroll my mouse over it and that will pop back up, and I can tell which program I'm about to click on by what name is popping up. So that's nice to have as an option. Now I will be mostly working in Photoshop, so it would be really nice to have Photoshop as an option down here on this bar. Now how to do that? So first we need to find the Photoshop application where it exists in the Finder. So let's click on Finder. I'm going to tell mine to show me in the list so I've got less to deal with. Mine is set up to automatically go where this is kind of the home file. It's got things like my applications. You might also have applications listed in the sidebar. You can click on that. Whereas the third option, if you really can't find where your applications are, you can hit Command, Shift, and A and hold those all down together and it will pop you into applications. So let's find the program that we want to add. It is Photoshop Adobe Photoshop CS6. Now right now, if you look closely, that's actually the folder. That isn't the program itself. So if I tried to put this folder down here, it's not going to let me do that on this side because this area is for programs itself. On the other side is where I can put things like folders. That's not really what I want. What I really want is just the application itself. So to open a folder, you double click on it And now I can look and see, well, which one of these files is the app. It's fairly obvious to me, I've worked on these a long time, that it's the one with the little picture. But if you're in doubt, you can look over here in the kind. This is an application. So what we're going to do is click and drag this down here to the bar, and it will pop up on mine now that we've got that set. And you can see as I'm moving it around, these apps are actually moving over to make space for it. So when I let go, it will create a shortcut right there on my bar. Now you'll notice it didn't take it away over here. That's because we're not really moving the program. We're just creating an alias, which will go down here and be available anytime that we need it. The other program that we're going to need eventually, so we might as well add it now, is Adobe Bridge. So to back up one step to the folder just above this one, we can click our little back arrow and find Adobe Bridge CS6, double click on this, and then do the same thing with the Adobe Bridge. Okay, so we're pretty much set to roll. I've got my settings the way I like them. I've got my two programs down here. So I'm going to wrap up this video and have you go on to the next one where we'll learn about setting up folders, renaming, and all that fun stuff.